Check my heartbeat. Okay?
That's right.
That's right.
Go ahead, baby. Is it big? Too heavy? You got it?
You got it?
Yeah.
You're a big girl. You got it.
I do.
Oh, what's that?
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
What is that? Yeah, drum set. Go, Daddy. Go, 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 Daddy. Go, 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 Mimi. Go, go.
Okay, what's wrapped up in here? It's a new Elsa and Anna changer doll. You can change it to
You
Elsa.
just showed me that the other day, yesterday.
It's a new changer doll. I love it. Let's set by me. I'll help you clean up after.
The first thing is why do people have such a difficult time plotting their own course? Okay, that's the question. Why do people have such a difficult time plotting their own course? I mean, I get questions all the time about this kind of thing where the person is trying to either manifest something or do something that just is becoming impossible for them. So every time they try to go into the mainframe and tap into whatever they want to tap into and deviate from this false course that they're on, they get back an error and they get put back into this same cycle. So why is that? Well, it has everything to do with folklore. It has everything to do with these holidays and these calendars and these ritualistic observances that have gone on in a space that transcends space and time. And I'll elaborate on that a little bit more.
Hi, my name's Chloe from calmeryou.com. It's coming up to Christmas. Some tips for having a stress-free Christmas. Because Christmas is supposed to be about relaxing, spending time with family, you know, lazy afternoons in front of the telly, but so often it can get taken over by all the shopping and cooking and sort of family arguments that can happen. So I wanted to give some tips to help to make it a more stress-free and relaxing experience.
Hi there, it's Margie here, and I wanted to create this video because Christmas is not so far away, the year end, and if you're like a lot of people I've spoken to, you're probably feeling a little bit overwhelmed with how much you want to get done before the end of the year.
So this term folklore, this is fairy tales, this is holiday figures such as Santa Claus, etc., etc. What it's designed to do is to lure you. Look what it's saying. It's going to lure you, pull you off your path, and put you onto some other folks' path. Okay? Folklore. So if you're paying attention to some other folks' culture, some other folks' petri dish, basically, where they're cultivating their own mindsets and mentality based on distortion and distorting the actual facts about astronomical positions and correspondences, putting people in the place of energetic potential that doesn't even have a face and have a name. If you're doing that, then this is what actually makes it difficult for your consciousness to plot its own course. So let's imagine that every single year from the time that you've been born, either if you celebrate or you don't celebrate, something comes across this matrix that gives you an entire story and makes everyone in this matrix feel like they have to assess and get involved in this certain energy. Let's say Christmas. So right now, everyone's in the Christmas cheer. I guess everyone is doing the green and the red, and they're buying the gifts, and all this stuff is going on, right? But see, it's the collective feel, because this Christmas goes on all around the world. It's not just a Western holiday. There's a counterpart of it in Germany, Poland, you name it. Anywhere the Gothic traditions have come from, there is going to be Claus or Sinterklaas or whatever name that is going to be given. Because as we get into this, you'll see that it has many names because it's a specific story about a specific kind of being.
Have you looked over the naughty nice list yet?
Looking at it now. Okay, I wasn't looking at it, but I am now. No.
Play your games. We'll take care of things.
This isn't a game. Crinkle, the naughty nice list is gone. Call the police.
I've seen this before. It's called the bar hunt bug. But your dad is locked. There's nothing I can do.
You're the police. You're supposed to help.
And you were supposed to bring me a Battle Max action figure in 1987.
Oh. Hello, Dougie. Didn't recognize you. Did you get any better at listening to your mom?
She passed.
Sorry. She made a great cookie.
Says you're the one to ransom.
No! We don't negotiate with naughties. No offense, Dougie.
It was a phase.
Crinkle. We need Chris Jr.
Who's Chris Jr.?
My son.
So what I'm saying is, in a nutshell, is that I'm urging you to create your own spiritual beliefs. I'm urging you to create your own observances around significant events in your own life. So even the solstices and the equinox are very significant spaces and times according to the geometric position of the earth. But this doesn't mean that you have to go adapt some, Easter egg bunny and all this weird stuff that these people have cooked up to keep you off of your real consciousness and keep you sunk in the illusionary game. That's what it's really doing.
Guys, come on. Say cheese. Look at me. Say cheese. That's a good Christmas photo. Wait, I want to take a picture in front of the tree. Go, Chase. Go, Lexi. Take a picture in front of the tree. Guys, look at me. Chase, look at Mommy. Chase, let's take a picture in front of the tree. Okay. Say cheese.
Charlie, blah, blah, blah.
Santa? Wait, guys, stay here. Stay here. That Santa's creepy. That was creepy.
And it's so clear. I see so many people every day. You can't see it, first of all, until you get out of it. But once you get out of it, then you start seeing that it's affecting billions. 6 billion, 6.5 billion people are infected by the ritualistic observances of a culture that has dominated this particular matrix over a countless period of time to a point where it's embedded in the person's consciousness. So when it's time to create something new, when it's time to do something new, when it's time to believe even that you're a cosmos, those things come into question because the last program says you are not. It's a concept of one. Let me show you how, just in etymology and in symbolism, that one wants to really be zero. There's no actually real number as one. And this is another massive revelation, but think about it. Okay, so you got one. Where's there one of anything? There's not one tree. There's not one human. There's not one dog. There's not one of anything. Okay? Zero is the real one. And the zero means the totality, wholeness, connection. But see, this kind of concept, this kind of bleeding into the reality as a code, one is the king. The king is the only one that says, I'm the only one, I'm higher than everyone, no one's like me, blah, 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 blah. That's a program. And the reason why you know one wants to be zero is how is one spelled? O-N-E. The first letter is an O, which is a zero. So it shows you, but these kind of codes, this is how, when you get into the mainframe, you find that what controls the human mind, what controls the human consciousness is totally different than what people think, because they're still thinking in English. And until you pull out of that program, that fermenting petri dish of the culture of the English Gothic God system, then you cannot even interpret any of this. It's always going back to that to see the world. Like, I'm going to see the world through the Bible. I'm going to see the world through the eyes of this God, rather than see the world through yourself. You are the world. See, and that's the leap. That's the quantum leap, because when you talk to people like that, they start, man, they can't, it's like getting off on an island for them, because they can't see where the new island is. They can't see where the path goes. So they rather not travel. They scared. Well, Massa's going to get mad.
But we're really excited. Joining us today, we have Father Alexander Gusetis, who is the priest at Annunciation Parish in Lancaster, PA.
Great to be with you, Melissa and Dr. Stavros. Before we even discuss Advent and fasting, in preparing for today and in giving thought and a little research, I took some time to think about, why is it that we have such anxiety and stress during this season? And when did it start? And what role does the church play in cultivating this anxiety and stress? And I was really quite surprised to learn that in the early church, the first centuries of the church, the three major feast days of the church were Pascha, Pentecost, and Theophany. And Christmas, as a separate feast day, wasn't even on the roadmap until many centuries, perhaps the 4th century, and in Jerusalem, not until the 6th century, because Theophany and Nativity were both celebrated on the same day, on January 6th. It was kind of a revealing or manifestation of Christ. And so they were kind of celebrated together. So it was really not until many centuries after the church started that there was even a separate feast day that we honor the birth of Christ. And since then, even more centuries later to the present day, if you look liturgically, and I always go there to get to be as a starting point, because the church calendar is the best roadmap for our seasons and the rhythm of life. And even to this day, there really is very little that's done liturgically for this season than is done for Lent and Holy Week and Pascha. And so the takeaway that I get from that is that, in a way, we set ourselves up for disappointment and anxiety, because the culture is pressing us about what this season should be about, and not the church.
If we leave, Massa's going to kill us. Somebody emailed me the other day and they were like, man, Jehovah's definitely mad at you. And I said, man, Jehovah's always mad. Have you read the profile of this program? The program is burning with fire and has no feminine water side. So of course it's going to be mad. What are you talking about? But it's just that whole, well, I'm afraid of it. But see, what I would be afraid of more is losing my soul. And that's why this is called Soul Wars, a war for the soul. But it's made to seem like a game. This is why Star Wars comes out. It's all games. It's like, Boba Fett and, the same old characters. And it's all a game. They make the biggest video game. Now they're going to go on the virtual reality video game. Chewbacca's out there. They're taking pictures with Chewbacca. They might as well roll him, Chewbacca, in with Santa Claus and all these other characters in this culture of folklore that's luring you away from who you really are. And that's what's really going on. And the moment that the mind realizes that, then a program kicks in and tries to fight it. That program kicks in, well, no, come on, this is harmless. I love this. And what I'm saying is that this doesn't mean that you have to go get fanatical about it. I'm just saying knowing is really half the battle. And if you don't put this stuff in its proper place, then it will take over you. It has taken over the collective consciousness field. You will find more people lined up for Star Wars than you'll ever see them lined up to benefit themselves and to project their consciousness into a whole nother mainframe beside this whack matrix. But
crowds aside, some of the season's hot ticket items include game consoles, fitness wearables, and of course, all things Star Wars. From clothing to games, put down your weapons, to talking toys, the force is strong for retailers.
It seems like last year was Frozen, and that was a huge thing for Disney. And this year, the customers are coming out for Star Wars, absolutely.
Every time you start talking about that, now you're the Scrooge. This is what I say. You start talking about Santa, you're the Scrooge. The Scrooge program kicks in. People kick in. They say, well, I get it all the time. I face more adversity in this particular process of awakening for myself and others than I probably would face if I was a gangbanger. Because at least then you got a group of people that's actually really with you versus this. You got these so-called conscious people who are really MK Ultra programmed. And the moment that you get them into your fold is the moment that they trade on you and turn on you like night and day. There's no honor. And it's because of the same path and the same process being followed. But something new has arrived. We're not devoid of creating something new. We are creators. You know, they say, well, there's nothing new under the sun. Well, go beyond the sun then. Something that's long since need to be clarified. Like if you go and see one of these movies and where the witch is running or the evil spirit with the backwards arms is running up all in the corner of the wall, and somehow when I say you need to balance yourself and you need to understand negativity, you think that I'm talking about that thing. That's not what I'm talking about. That's evil, and it is a culture. So we need to realize that this whole darkness, which none of us wants, nobody wants that kind of crap in their house. Nobody wants that around their children. Nobody really wants that in their consciousness. Now they play with it. You got people who play with it because they think everything's a game. So they'll run into the movie theater, let it completely embed their consciousness, be scared to sleep at night, Freddy Krueger's in the closet, et cetera, because they're playing with it. They're playing with the evil, playing with the frequency. But this has nothing to do with negativity. Negativity and positivity are poles that are used to create. So first of all, let us start to distinguish what these words really mean.
We are going to be discussing how to navigate the stress and all the anxiety of this nativity season.
Thank you, Melissa. And it's great to be here with you and with Father Alex. So I'm thinking in just introducing on a very general level what stress and anxiety are, I should probably be a little shrinky and talk about the brain. And this is a very basic physiology of the brain. The brain's made up of three basic parts. They work together, but they also have their own independent functions. The oldest part of the brain, the deep brain, is the part of our brain that controls the automatic things that happen in our system, our blood flow, our heart rate, our respiration, things that, in a sense, just keep the human body regulated and getting the nutrients that it needs, digestion, respiration, things like that. Then the next part of the brain is called the limbic brain. And the limbic brain is responsible for things like emotion regulation, memory. Those are some of the most important functions of the limbic brain. And then the part of the brain that we think of most commonly when we're thinking of the brain is the part that really does the bulk of the thinking. It's called the prefrontal cortex, and the prefrontal cortex solves problems, makes decisions, learns, really connects ideas. It's responsible for things like impulse control. And it's the part of our brain that is like the boss in a way. It makes decisions. Stress and anxiety live mostly in that second part of the brain, the limbic brain. And what anxiety is for human beings, as it is for many mammals, is it's a way of sending an early warning signal in the face of something that's threatening. Now, when life wasn't so urban and so structured and regulated, when there was more to really be aware of in terms of being life-threatening, that deep brain and the limbic part of the brain helped keep people alive by sending signals, like if there was a rustling of leaves nearby, to call attention to a possible predator. Big things like that. And we commonly hear about the fight-flight response, which is a way that human beings respond to threat. It's the body, the brain sends the whole body signals to change itself from thinking and being in a relaxed state to being ready to confront or run away from some threat. Where that gets complicated these days, and where it gets complicated on the road to Bethlehem, is it's a system that lights up quickly in the face of threat and then takes a long time to cool off. It'd be easier in some ways if it was the other way around, but the way that it works is anxiety can hit pretty quickly, and we don't always know what the threat is that we're responding to. Sometimes it's a car coming quickly from the wrong direction. Sometimes it's thinking about how much work we've got to do. Sometimes it's just a product of being fatigued or undernourished or overscheduled. Anything that you can think of that feels stressful can activate a fight-flight response, which then becomes kind of an overdone response to whatever it is we need to do. And when we're in that anxious place, it becomes very hard for the thinking brain, the prefrontal cortex, to make decisions.
We're going to talk about the true identification behind these characters and programs, exactly how to understand their position so you can deactivate them. And then you're going to start to begin to see where your creativity is, since they're shut off. When you shut off that frequency, that's now when you can begin to broadcast. Because that's what's happening. If there's this static going on, and this static meaning something that's fixed and solid and right there, this static going on, you can't concentrate on yourself. And so this is how you plot the new course for yourself.
Claus would travel the entire world in one night in a sleigh pulled by reindeer delivering toys to good boys and girls. Before Santa would be big, fat, jolly, and become addicted to milk and cookies as well as a little bit of Coca-Cola. Before he would miraculously be at every shopping mall no matter where you are in the world. The legend of Santa Claus has been developing throughout the ages, with many different storytellers adding their own piece to the history. Now, the original inspiration comes from an extremely generous monk who was born sometime back in 200 AD. Legends of St. Nicholas's goodwill traveled far and wide, with different nations coming up with their own variations and giving the character different powers. But it would be the author of The Night Before Christmas who penned this poem in the 1800s who would come up with the man we know and love today. He also got some help from a few illustrators as well as Coca-Cola. They added their 2 cents as well. My name's Michael McCrudden, documenting the life of Santa Claus prior to fame. Here for you up before they were famous. Also, you can call him St. Nick or Santa Claus or Kris Kringle, but you know the guy. The legend of Santa Claus can be traced back hundreds of years to a Greek Christian bishop named St. Nicholas, who was born sometime around 200 AD. He was a very generous and kind man who became legendary for leaving people gifts and stockings. Now, different nations, they began making their own renditions and creations of the character, but it was the Dutch who would take his story to the next level. They referred to him as Sinterklaas, and they merged his image and story with that of Germanic European god named Odin, who would fly through the sky on an 8-legged horse during the midwinter event of Yule. Now, Sinterklaas was such a popular character of folklore, he even had his own day of celebration, which was December the 6th. Now, when Dutch people decided to immigrate to New York City in the 1700s, they brought stories of Sinterklaas with them. The celebration of Christmas was a concrete holiday in most parts of the modern world by the 19th century, and stores began to advertise Christmas shopping throughout America in 1820. Then in 1822, Professor Clement Clark Moore wrote a 56-line Christmas poem for his 3 daughters entitled Visit from St. Nicholas, better known today as The Night Before Christmas. Now, the inspiration for the holiday hero in this poem came from both St. Nicholas and Sinterklaas. Mr. Moore decided to modernize the character in his own image. He would call him Santa Claus, and he was a jolly old elf who smoked a pipe. He also had a sleigh with reindeer, he also had a bunch of toys, and he could go down any chimney with just the tilt of his head. From there, this depiction of Santa Claus began to appear in advertisements soon after, but the story of Santa isn't done yet. New York illustrator Thomas Nast, he decided to add his own depictions of the character in 1881. They This time he depicted Santa as a round, cheerful man with a full white beard holding a sack of toys for lucky children. It was Nast who gave Santa his signature suit trimmed with white fur, his residence in the North Pole, a workshop filled with elves. Also, he came up with the naughty or nice list, and well, he invented Mrs. Claus, cause Santa he could get lonely. Then in 1980, a man by the name of James Edgar, he decided to stitch for himself his own Santa suit, and he showed up at the department store in Brockton, Massachusetts, and the man practically caused a riot as kids from all over would travel by train just to meet the real-life Santa Claus. The Salvation Army, they took note, and they put unemployed men to work in Santa suits looking for donations. Still around this time, there were plenty of different variations. Some people wouldn't be as fat, some people had short beards, some were wearing green suits, other tanned. That's when Coca-Cola decided to step in and solidify the character. They did this in 1931 with the help of painter Haddam Sundblom. His depiction was so well received that Sundblom painted Santa Claus again for Coca-Cola for the next 34 years. And the rest of the story, well, you know the story because this is before they're famous. My name is Michael McCred, thanks for checking out my personal channel.
A kindly Santa Claus showering gifts on children is actually not universal. In some places, Santa has a not-so-nice associate. Here's Nick Watt in London.
You eat all your vegetables? No.
Santa Claus coming soon to a mall near you.
A magical time of the year.
For us and the kids, good old St. Nicholas is just all about the gifts. In the American Christmas tradition, everything's cozy and nice. Santa's the sweet old man in the flammable suit and the itchy beard, and his sidekick, the lovely little elf, who spends his year at the North Pole making toys and feeding the reindeer.
In America, St. Nicholas was advertised for its Protestant audience. Promoters of Santa Claus knew the American audience would never accept the real version of St. Nicholas.
But in much of Europe, Santa's sidekick is evil. Santa's sidekick is evil. Metz, France, St. Nicholas Day. Here comes Santa's little helper, a cannibalistic child killer. He threatens them, even the little ones. The kids who are scared are the naughty ones, he claims. I take naughty kids away. Here, when Santa comes calling, Krampus comes too. Out on the streets, Santa's on the sidelines watching the marauding Krampus. In much of Europe, Santa's henchman is sociopathic. The threat of Santa's naughty list isn't enough. If you're bad in Austria, his sidekick gives you a beating. I'm totally lost for words. Nick Watt, ABC News. Consciousness field, whatever it's made out of, we don't even need to examine that, but it transcends space and time. So this means that any collective consciousness field, because you'll see them like cells, whether they're like holidays, whether they're like beliefs or whatever, do not adhere to the they do not adhere to the fundamentals of physical energies alone. Like, oh, well, you know, if it's too far out of distance or I lose the signal. No, that's Bluetooth. That's internet. That's Wi-Fi. That stuff loses signals. But in collective consciousness, signals are never lost. They are just waiting to be reanimated and activated by you. So if a person gets triggered back into the same collective consciousness frequency of somebody else's culture, somebody else's frequency or petri dish of distortion, then that's the collective field that all those people begin to share. And because you type in the coordinates, then you put the coordinates in to where you want to go on your path, but this is a road that's already been traveled. It's already scourged into the forest.
And the last-minute rush is on. Shoppers are flooding malls and shopping centers for the final weekend before Christmas. News Channel 5's Jason Lamb is at Green Hills, where it's been busy all day.
Available experts say this is actually the busiest shopping day of the year. It's the last Saturday before Christmas. It's not actually the day after Thanksgiving, they say, is the busiest shopping day of the year. And it is easy to see that here just by looking at all the cars trying to get in and out of here.
Hey, Pat and Paul, and you're right, time does fly. Can you believe we're only less than a week away before Christmas? But take a look at all the cars here outside the Kohl's. The store is going to be open all night long, 24 hours. This is just one store across the Southland that says tomorrow is going to be even busier. It's officially crunch time. With only a week to go before Christmas, it's now or never for last-minute shoppers.
Getting it done. I think all stores all day has been traffic everywhere. But I just have to be in high spirits, you know?
And especially since there are plenty of procrastinators. As of last weekend, an estimated 57% of consumers in the U.S. had barely started crossing off their Christmas lists. And Saturday is expected to be the busiest shopping day of the year.
And maybe the adrenaline rush of, last-minute shopping and see what you can get. That's kind of the fun thing.
You don't mind the crowds?
No, I hate crowds.
So let us perceive the entire process of our takeover in a tense, and then let us begin to go back into our consciousness or forward into our consciousness to figure out how to undo that. So that's what we're doing today. We're going right into where it's all at.
Every year around Christmas, Guillermo and I put on elf costumes to help lighten Santa's workload. Santa, as you know, is very busy this time of year, so we help him by interviewing kids to determine if they've been naughty or nice. Today we had a chat with a young lady who turned out to be very, very nice. Well, hello. Yeah, come on in. Hi. How you doing? Hi.
Good.
My name, thank you. I'll take your note. How are you?
Good.
My name is Jimmy. I'm an elf.
Hi.
This is Guillermo. He's also an elf.
Hi. Nice meeting you.
What is your name?
Elin.
Elin?
Yeah.
Elin? Like Tiger Woods' ex-wife. Yes?
Yeah, my name is Elin.
Okay. Well, let's see, Elin. You've written a letter to Santa Claus. You said, I want a Barbie playhouse.
Mm-hmm.
And I want a kitty walking set.
Mm-hmm.
And I want a playhouse for me.
Yes.
And Beanie Babies.
Yes.
Merry Christmas, Elin. Well, that seems reasonable. Now, have you been naughty or nice this year?
Nice.
Tell me about some of the nice things you've done.
I've been really sweet to my friends at preschool.
Oh, that's nice. That's good. What else?
And I've been giving so much love to my mommy and daddy.
Oh, that's nice. What else?
And I really love them.
Oh, that's nice. Yes. What else?
And my daddy's gonna be my daddy forever.
Oh, that's nice. Now, what are some of the naughty things that you've done this year?
I have done nothing naughty.
Nothing?
Nothing naughty.
Not even one thing?
Not even one thing.
Little bit?
Nope.
Tiny? Eh?
No.
Some?
Nope.
Eh?
Nope.
Eh?
Nope.
Uh-huh?
Nope. 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 I've done nothing naughty. Nothing.
Well, Santa's been watching you. He says there have been a few, nothing big, but he says there have been a few little naughty things that you've done. You tell me if you've done any of these things.
Well, I really don't want to tell them.
You can tell us, okay?
Just teeny bit.
Teeny little things. They're not even big things. They're nothing.
They're just teeny tiny.
They're tiny things. You're a child. Why would anyone even care about any of these little things you've done?
Yes, and I've done
nothing
naughty. Nothing.
So many good things. Tiny little bad things.
Yeah, just
tiny. It's like nothing. For instance, sometimes you make not so nice comments about the girls at school's dresses. Is that true?
Yes.
Because they don't look good.
Yeah, because
You're just trying to tell them. You're trying to help them.
Yeah,
You're like the fashion police at school. Yes. You're like a young Joan Rivers.
I'm really, really sweet to all my friends.
Says here, you can sometimes be bossy with your friends at school.
Nope. I never.
Never? Not even tiny.
Sometimes.
Just a teeny bitty bit. Just a teeny
It's like nothing. Like, who cares?
Just like this
Like,
big.
why is this even on the list? What's wrong with
Just
Santa?
like this
That's like tiny. I can't even see it. It's so small.
Oh my God, I don't see it.
It's like nothing.
Nothing, yeah, I don't see
If
it.
that was the food you had to eat, you'd starve to death, right?
Well, I eat a lot of vegetables.
I was
and
making it was a metaphor. It was not it was nothing to do with actual food. Please have a seat. Let's keep going through this list.
I just love everyone
You
I know.
love everyone.
I love everyone I know.
Is there anyone you don't like?
Nope.
Are there any bad kids at school you can tell us about? So that we...
Gracie has been bad.
Gracie. Oh, okay, now we're getting to the good stuff. What did Gracie do?
She has been really mean and not letting me play with her.
Oh, boy. Should we tell Santa about this?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay. And she should get no toys, right?
right.
Right, okay. So you love everyone, though,
I like everyone, but except Grace.
except for Gracie.
Yes, except for Grace.
People, they think it's not even, it doesn't matter. They're like, well, shit, this doesn't matter. It's Christmas. No kid cannot have Christmas. You're a Scrooge. Mind control. And it's got most people in its grips. And they don't even know. It doesn't work like, oh, well, okay, I already know that this is a rapist, so I'm going to keep these rapists away from my kids. It works that this is a rapist. It's sitting your kids on its lap. Some old man that doesn't actually bear the appearance anymore of even a physical being. It has been outcast from society because the king has always served a role of being against the people. The king has always enslaved the people. These are facts. Read your own history if you can even still remember your own history. So how this works is that the child is made to believe that the power and gifts come from the king. Role replaceable. So from that point, the entire story is built on this deception. And then this sets them up yearly for a continuous mind control program of servitude to the king. So that way, when in the future, when they come across the codes, the dialects, the edicts, the creeds, the bulls, the culture, the religion of the king, they will bow down because they will believe that that's where their power comes from, not their ancestor, even their most recent ancestor, their parents. They will disrespect you for deceiving them. All of that will take place and you won't even know what's going on. And then people wonder, well, why is Johnny so bad? Like, what's wrong with him? And it's because you deceived him or her. And that's how it works. And we don't understand.
Very, very nice. Congratulations.
Thank you.
There are some naughty things, though, I see on this list.
There is?
Mm-hmm. Now, it says here that sometimes you draw on the furniture with markers.
Well, I just wanted to see how tall I am.
Oh. And how tall are you?
Like this big.
Oh, that's good. Okay.
Really big.
It says Ryan loves her sister, but always hits her in the face.
Because she does mean things to me.
Okay.
Very mean things.
Ooh, what kind of things does she do?
She hits me.
She hits you?
And she bited me on the arm one time.
Did it hurt?
Yes.
Should we tell Santa about this?
Yes, only about Riley.
Yeah, only about her, right? We won't tell him about the things that you've done.
No.
Just about the things Riley has done.
Yes.
Tell us some other things Riley's done.
She done other stuff that's really, really bad.
Whoa. Like what?
Hitting me a lot of times.
Wow. What else?
Bite me like more times.
Is she a puppy?
No, she's a sister, a human.
Because if she was a puppy, I would say, okay, well, that's what they do. But a sister, to be biting another sister, Santa will not like hearing that at all.
No.
She might not get any gifts this year. Are you okay with that?
Yes.
You are. Do you think we should have... Okay, good. All right, that's good. Yeah. Just don't steal any cars or knock over any liquor stores, and we should be fine.
Okay.
Very nice to meet you, Ryan.
Very nice to meet you.
Merry Christmas. Would you like a candy cane?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you want to bring one to your sister?
Yes.
You do? Even after all she's done to you? Wow, what a good kid.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, Santa's going to be very happy with you. Thank you. What a little rat, right? I mean, adorable, don't get me wrong, but a total narc.
So anyway, so what this is about is, so you got the elves, and so obviously that Santa, Odin, or Wooten has these minions, and the reindeer are actually cognates of what's known as Sleipnir, or Old Slippy. It's an eight-legged horse that's the child of Odin, the child of Loki, the trickster god, and that Sleipnir actually mostly rides through the location of hell. So, and then in this case, the word hell actually means one who covers up or hides. So this is a major part of this, just so you understand the complete level of this folklore, is that all the symbolism is there. Santa has the elves. The elves are the minions. They're actually the dark forces that come out at night, because notice Santa always rolls at night, and then starts to torment the child's mind. See, because you don't have any idea. See, we're so out of touch. We don't even have any idea what our children are experiencing. We just think that because we've introduced this concept of them getting these gifts, that in their subconscious mind that everything is okay. But meanwhile, there's a lie, an illusion weeding itself into their consciousness, and it's going on over a certain period. So you'll start to see strange behavior from them. You'll start to see things that you won't actually be able to relate to something as what you would see as, oh, it's great as Santa Claus, but you won't even, that's how it works. We talked about it earlier. You see a symbol, you don't know what that symbol means, and then all of a sudden things are happening, and because you can't define the symbol, just because you can't define the folklore, doesn't mean it doesn't have an effect. In fact, it's designed for you not to be able to actually interpret what it really is, and often to interpret it opposite to what it really is. That's what makes everything backwards. So, again, some think this is a game, and this is why it's so hard to plot a different course, because if you've been subjected to this frequency, you could even be in a foster home, you could be somewhere else with people that are not even your family, and here they come with Santa Claus, here they come with this same Easter, here they come with this same Bible.
Hello, children.
How you doing?
Merry
Why did you just
Christmas.
push me, Luke?
Oh,
Sit right
no.
here.
Merry Christmas. Jump up in that seat right there. I'm Elf Jimmy, and this is Elf Guillermo.
Hi.
What are your names?
That's Luke. I'm Lena.
Let me have your letter for Santa.
Oh, why do you have pointy ears?
Why?
Because we're elves.
You want to sit down here?
Santa's-
Yeah, right here.
Okay.
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah.
welcome, kids. Let me explain what's going on here.
Why do you both have those silly costumes?
Silly costumes.
Silly
We're
costumes,
elves. We work for Santa Claus.
Oh.
Yeah.
But Santa Claus is not here. But how will you make the presents if you don't have a present machine?
We do have a present machine up at the North Pole. But our job today is to find out if kids have been naughty or nice, so we know what kind of presents to get them.
Naughty?
Yeah, do you know what naughty means?
No.
It means like bad, like you were bad this year, or were you good this year?
I was crying a little because Luke was fighting.
Oh, Luke was fighting, okay. Luke was fighting.
Why are you writing with those candy canes?
Well, because these are our candy cane pens, because we're elves, and this is what elves do.
Oh. But where did you get them?
We got them from the North Pole.
North Pole?
Mm-hmm.
But Santa doesn't have one of those.
He does.
The only thing that I want is a Lego set.
That's the only thing you want? A Lego set?
Oh, no. No more presents.
Yeah, really.
A Lego
Let's
set?
see.
Only a Lego set.
Dear Santa, I want a Lego set. I want to say ho, ho, ho. Luke.
That's very
Why
simple.
do all of those silly shoes on you?
Silly? There's nothing silly about these shoes. These are some of the best shoes.
But they're curled. But why do they have curves?
Because we're elves. This is how elves dress.
But how can reindeer fly?
You have so many questions. It's unbelievable. It is literally unbelievable.
I always talk to my brother.
You do.
you always-
Do you guys want toys for Christmas or not?
Why does this place have a Christmas tree just like we're gonna have one? Hey, stop looking at me, you.
Who's looking at you?
That thing.
That thing is looking at you?
Yeah.
No, that thing is looking at him.
Hey, him. Why him?
Can I tell you who else is looking
there's
at you?
something weird around.
Luke.
Yeah?
You know who else is watching you at all times? Santa Claus.
What?
Yeah.
Why? He's not in his house. He's not looking at any of us. Unbelievable.
He's watching over us.
I don't see any Santa Claus in here.
Why do I feel like you're the adults and we're the children?
Can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know why. That's a very existential question, though.
Is
your shoe?
Yeah.
Are you on hallucinogenic drugs? Okay. Are you sure?
No. I was tickling him with my aunt.
I'm gonna tickle him with my uncle.
Your uncle?
Yeah.
You don't have an uncle. You're being crazy.
I know. I think we're all being crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These evil rituals is what we're going to be talking about here for just a moment. But this casting and these ballots, ballot is the female, meaning female ball, female king, ballot. Okay, so getting into that whole culture, the moment that you put your signature down, which is a two-dimensional imprint of yourself, you're basically saying, here, I'm present, I'm casting my lot. Okay, so now I'm going to go to the polls, this May poll, and I'm going to go ahead and cast my lot. So when you get involved in that, you're not just voting for Bernie Sanders, you're actually voting for everyone else in that whole entourage, and now they have power over you. So don't put your signature or come into agreement with any of this, no matter how it looks. This is like the witch in the forest with the red apple that looks like a princess at first. And then, you get back, you bite the apple, you go to sleep, you get into the lair, and it's an old witch with a mole on her nose. This is that game. Show them, look at the protocols. Show them only the good face, the roses, and then leave the darkness and the poison where it is until they're infected by it. That's the whole process of these people. So this is almost like 101 for us. Even for me.
In the Arctic Circle, this fungus also has magical associations with animals. Fly agaric contains hallucinogenic chemicals and is a favorite food of reindeer. For thousands of years, the lives of reindeer and Sami people have been entwined. Fly agaric was important to both of them. In autumn, reindeer seek out the mushrooms, even under an early fall of snow. No one knows whether the reindeer are affected, but in the past, Sami shamans took fly agaric in their visionary rituals. They even drank urine from reindeer, believed to be under the influence. In trance, they contacted the great reindeer spirit. On humans, the drug heightens senses and creates visions of flying. Some believe the greatest of all modern myths arose in the Sami's visionary flights of fancy. Perhaps early 19th century ideas drew on these stories to create a Christmas legend.
And so what's going on is that because this stuff is now what you could say is ancient. I mean, it's 2015. This has been going on for thousands of years. What's happening is that as a being, you're now into this conscious field that transcends other fields. And you can be, so let me just put it into perspective here. There is a field that we all remain in. It's called the collective consciousness, okay? And how we share that field is there's many things that in duality that we don't agree on, supposedly, but there's actually more things that we are very much in agreement on altogether, like earth, like our bodies, like water, like fire, and like every other real building block to the reality in our collective consciousness. We all believe in those things, and that's what links us all. These are the ideals that we all share on the planetary system. So this is because we all send our thoughts, our mind, our body, our soul, even the fibers of our very being into those finite principles, then that's actually where we all meet, and that's called collective consciousness. Because remember, the whole act is to get you to sign up. But many people are actually signing up in different ways. They're paying homage still to the king. So whether it's King James, who it's obvious, what edition of the Bible is this? King James's version. We talked about this. It's the Khans, the kings, the Cohens, and the priest kings, which are actually the same being. I've now come to the point of being able to consolidate both of them into the same being with Old Saint Nick. So the thing is that, so you got this King James version of this Bible. This means that this Bible is set up, this current version, where this New International, where all the predecessors or the what comes after the King James version is all set up to get everyone in alignment with the king. Okay? And then, so whether it's King James or King Henry, these kings come from a descendancy that traces all the way back to Wooten. Now, Wooten is God. That is the actual being's name. It's actually God. It comes in English to us as God. And we've went over this thousands of times, but hey, some people need it again. And so some people, they're new to this, but God is an actually real being. That's why in other countries, they don't call their supreme being God. They have other names like Allah and Buddha, and there's a whole list of names. Many of them still trace back to the same thing. You'll find even Sanskrit being actually directly related to this same old language that we've been going through over the last few episodes. So you got God who's the Germanic king, Herne the Hunter, okay? And that's actually who Santa Claus is, but let's go through this slowly. So you have Saint Nick. Saint Nick proves that Santa is the priest king, okay? So everyone knows that Santa is an anagram for Satan, yet they still ignore it. The saints were the Satans because they were devas. This comes from an old level of text in which they plagiarized from the Hindu tradition, which is still part of that same system. It's Sanskrit and it's all Abrahamic. Abrahamic is tracing back to Melchizedek. The Melchizedek is still the king. These kings are what this book continuously writes about as being the ones to stay away from, but yet people are drawn into it all the time. The first king in the Bible, in a tense, being Saul, which is a code name for the salt, which is the hexagramic field, because salt is a cube, that actually corresponds to Saturn, that old king. Because Saturn is actually in its waning or crone base cycle. It is a time lord. It counts time, and it keeps everyone wrapped in time of that old king. So the pledging in masonry, if you're accepted, is to the king. The pledging to any kind of structure that you're dealing with within this illusionary matrix is to the king. Everyone checks back to the king, whether it's the king in Britain and Rome, and then the king in Britain and Rome connecting himself to this other king. So it's a league of these priest kings that do the same thing, which is basically rule matrices. And they rule matrices through their Bibles, through their religions, and through their holy days or their holidays. This is why the king is always set itself as a priest king to be holy, right? Because the priest is, I'm the holy one. I'm the representative of God. So this means that because God is the king and the priest is holy, both of these are the same being. They're all in the same league, and people can't even get it. There's so many clues to this over and over and over again, but unless it's told to you directly, which I'm doing today, sometimes it's very difficult to put it all together, and it was designed like that. It's like just basically disassociating. Many of these factions disassociate. It's like Bernie Sanders. He disassociates with the party that he's still involved in behind closed doors. It may not even be something that he wants to do. It's just how things are. It's how it works. So anyone that gets in there thinking, I'm going to be the president and I'm going to change everything. Maybe you're deluded. Because this is all a part of a specific system, and this system traces back for thousands of years of dominion over human beings and enslavement of human beings, because kings need slaves. That's what they do. They're slavers. So whether they're galactic slavers or on-planet slavers, it's the same thing, because you become a slave to someone else's consciousness and someone else's ideas. So this stuff has traced back all the way since the Norse kings. Now, the Norse king saying is ho, ho, ho. Okay, check it. Ho, ho, ho is a shepherd's call to rally the sheep. Check it. Etymology behind ho means a shepherd's call. Now, when it comes out in modern English, a hoe is a prostitute because the sheep is seen as being able to be used by anyone. That's how deep it gets. So that call by old Santa Claus, who is the Norse king of the Herne, the Gothic god Wotan, has no respect. It's on a hunt. And guess what? When you read the literature, it says it's on the hunt for your kids. That it will actually try to steal your kids' soul in their sleep. And this is Grimm's tales. Jacob Grimm and his brother recounted all of these tales and brought them back into modern English. Research it. If you just go to Santa Claus on Wikipedia, you can find all of this. And this is why by the lack of knowledge ye shall perish. Ignorance is darkness and evil. And you will be blinded and you will be controlled by the ring. And the rings are the kings. The words even rhyme together for a reason, because it's rhyme and reason. These are poets. These are popes. They're papists. They like paper. They like money. You see, they write laws. They write rules. They write edicts. They bind. They cast. They have certificates. You see, so this all is not no game anymore. This is a soul war, and most are losing. But right now, what's going on is that there's a change. The change is really here. The frequency shift is available, and it's coming so strong, and it's for you to get this message. Remember, there's only at tops 50 people listening to the conversation right now. By the end of the week, tops, it'll be 2,000 people. I've been doing this for 7 years. My stuff doesn't never make it out a certain circle. So it's for you. It's for you to take the knowledge and to put it into the other places, because I could be here 10 years from now and still be looking at 1,000 views on a video that contains grade A quality consciousness, ready and accessible for anyone willing to listen, even if they have to hit play twice. So here we go. So the word Father is the key. The word Father is a code to the matrix of the language, because the word Father, also known as Fader, also known as Pater, as in Deus Pater, the dualistic God, okay? That word is actually in every language that ties into that spiritual structure, because the king, who's the Father, the Father God, always puts his name, his stamp of approval, Peter, okay? Meaning the penis. Puts that stamp of approval. They say, well, Peter's the rock. We're going to build our rock on him. That's what the book says. And this is because that Father is in Latin, right? It's the same word. Pappus, Papa, Pater. It's in Sanskrit. It's in Greek. It's in Old English, Old Norse, German, Scythian, Thracian, and the list goes on and on and on, because this is a lineage. This is a path that's been cut out through time for everyone to follow to their own demise, lining up like sheeps ready to go to the slaughter with their credit cards and all this stuff, ready to go into the next year and all this debt, right? Owing the king. Because remember, before these people, just to make it very clear, started despoiling places like Central America, South America, and Africa, they were doing this to their own people. Check out the history. If you go in, that's why Ireland had all these wars. You got these Teutonic lords, all in allegiance with the king, taxing the shit out of the people just weak and just in despair. So this is not groups of people. Like, this is not the German people. This is a group of small people in the German Empire. This is the same thing what you see in Israel. This is not the Israelis. This is the people who are in the seats of power in the Israeli parliament. You see, so it's not the Americans. It's the presidency and all the people that are in the presidential cabinet. You see, so what happens though is, because we're so fast to judge, you're like, yeah, all those Germans, they stole our culture, blah, blah. What are you talking about? Look at what's happening, because it's always been happening. It's the people who are bearing allegiance. Oh, I pledge allegiance. Right hand over the heart. This is the first level of the Masonic ritual. And this is the first level of the ancient ritual. The right hand must go over the heart. You must pledge allegiance to 51 upside down pentagrams, right? Which all stand for lost souls, chained souls that have chained themselves to that old king since Charlemagne. Since these people cracked open the vault of Lower Egypt, thinking that they understand how to deal with the underworld, and remove the custodians from the land, and then they ran amok on them. But that's another story. So,
site up right here. This is such a trip, you guys. This is the Atlantean conspiracy, and they're talking about how there was this Siberian tribe of natives that used to harvest this magic mushroom right here that grows in the northern climates, and they would they lived in these kind of teepee things called yurts, and they would have their fire in the middle of the teepee yurt thing, and the smoke would kind of go out the top of it, and kind of like the chimney. But in the wintertime, when the snow was really, really deep, it would gather around the outside of the yurt, so they couldn't enter and exit from the side. Instead, they would have to enter and exit through the hole in the roof of their yurt, where basically the quote unquote chimney is. And so what they would eat during the wintertime are these magic mushrooms, because they'd go and they'd dig around the pine trees for these mushrooms, which was exactly what the reindeer did, because the reindeer were also native to Siberia. So the reindeer would go and dig through the snow and to find these mushrooms, and they would eat the mushrooms. So the natives did the same thing. So they would go and they would find the pine trees, and they would dig around the pine trees and take out these mushrooms. But the mushrooms are really heavy to carry back to their yurt. You know, if you get a big sack of them, they're kind of heavy. They get heavy because they're moist. So they would dry the mushrooms out on the branches of the pine trees so that they'd be lighter, and then also I guess they're more palatable to eat once they're dried. So they would pick the mushrooms around the pine tree, then they'd set the mushrooms on the pine branches to dry, and then they'd come back after the mushrooms are dried, and they'd fill up their sack and then go back to their yurt, through the rooftop entrance, and then they'd have their food, their meal. So that blew me away.
In the reindeer, they're actually cognates of the children or the child of Loki. And most people already know the story about Loki, the trickster god. So Santa or Wooten comes riding on the trickster god's child that generally rides only through the location of hell. Hell as in Hel, and this word etymologically means in the Norse tradition, one who covers up or hides something. So this sets further the actual context of the whole ritual, which is to cover up or to hide something. So Santa's true identity, if you want to find it, and I'll just type it right here, and you can go and Google it, is Krampus, Krampus. Just like God says, "Oh, I do both good and evil." There's a other on most coins have two sides. Coin is another word that means king. There's two sides to the king. So this means just like the Bernie Sanders, there's this nice side, and then like the George Bush, there's this other side, and they all make up the same being. So Krampus is the other side of Santa. And then when you look at Krampus, you'll find that Krampus is actually the horn god of the witches. And this is who Santa is. Santa is a priest king, okay? He comes from the North Pole. So let me show you how it all works replete. The ritual is, it comes from the North Pole. This is the north point of the head. It comes down the chimney. So first it goes from the consciousness in the mind down the chimney, okay? So anytime we're talking about houses, we're talking about your body. So the chimney then is your spine. So when it comes down the chimney, what's at the bottom of the chimney? The fireplace. What's at the bottom of your spine? The root chakra, your fireplace. Okay? So it lands in the root chakra, right? And then gives gifts. Right? So then the child is made to believe this fanciful tale that this being is going to come basically into their house, down into their spine, into their root chakra, and give them some gift or power, because gifts are power.
Now, so much sense. I mean, that's where we get, the myth about Santa bringing gifts through the rooftop or through the chimney. That's where we get the red and the white suit from, like this native is wearing right here. That's where we get the idea of bringing the pine tree in and putting the ornaments on the tree. I mean, everything. It makes so much sense. So that's part of the Santa Claus myth. It comes from that Siberian region. But then it just comes from all of these different cultures. So another part of it is Saint Nicholas, who was a Catholic bishop in what is modern day Turkey from 270 to 343 CE. So that's another part. The Saint Nick, comes from that. That's where it had to do with the children, bringing gifts for the children. And then, but it also ties into this German myth of Odin, where this god traveled across the sky. So we have Santa and his reindeer traveling across the sky. Well, that came partially from the myth of Odin, the god Odin, which ties into the god Osiris, because we know Osiris was the god that traveled the sky on the sun chariot. So this is where it gets really, really amazing. So if you haven't seen the movie Zeitgeist, I recommend that you check it out. I'm just going to play a little clip from it right here.
Broadly speaking, the story of Horus is as follows. Horus was born on December 25th of the Virgin Isis Mary. His birth was accompanied by a star in the east, which, in turn, 3 kings followed to locate and adorn the newborn Savior. At the age of 12, he was a prodigal child teacher, and at the age of 30, he was baptized by a figure known as Anup, and thus began his ministry. Horus had 12 disciples he traveled about with, performing miracles such as healing the sick and walking on water. Horus was known by many gestural names such as the Truth, the Light, God's Anointed Son, the Good Shepherd, the Lamb of God, and many others. After being betrayed by Typhon, Horus was crucified, buried for 3 days, and thus resurrected. These attributes of Horus, whether original or not, seem to permeate many cultures of the world, for many other gods are found to have the same general mythological structure. Attis of Phrygia, born of the Virgin Nana on December 25th, crucified, placed in a tomb, and after 3 days was resurrected. Krishna of India, born of the Virgin Devaki, with a star in the east signaling his coming. He performed miracles with his disciples, and, upon his death, was resurrected. Dionysius of Greece, born of a virgin on December 25th, was a traveling teacher who performed miracles such as turning water into wine. He was referred to as the King of Kings, God's only begotten Son, the Alpha and Omega, and many others. And, upon his death, he was resurrected. Mithra of Persia, born of a virgin on December 25th, he had 12 disciples and performed miracles, and upon his death was buried for 3 days and thus resurrected. He was also referred to as the Truth, the Light, and many others. Interestingly, the sacred day of worship of Mithra was Sunday. The fact of the matter is, there are numerous saviors from different periods from all over the world which subscribe to these general characteristics. The question remains, why these attributes? Why the virgin birth on December 25th? Why dead for 3 days in the inevitable resurrection? Why 12 disciples or followers? To find out, let's examine the most recent of the solar messiahs. Jesus Christ was born of the Virgin Mary on December 25th in Bethlehem. His birth was announced by a star in the east, which 3 kings or magi followed to locate and adorn the new Savior. He was a child teacher at 12, and at the age of 30 he was baptized by John the Baptist, and thus began his ministry. Jesus had 12 disciples, which he traveled about with, performing miracles such as healing the sick, walking on water, raising the dead. He was also known as the King of Kings, the Son of God, the Light of the World, the Alpha and Omega, the Lamb of God, and many, many others. After being betrayed by his disciple Judas and sold for 30 pieces of silver, he was crucified, placed in a tomb, and after 3 days was resurrected and ascended into heaven. First of all, the birth sequence is completely astrological. The star in the east is Sirius, the brightest star in the night sky, which, on December 24th, aligns with the 3 brightest stars in Orion's belt. These 3 bright stars in Orion's belt are called today what they were called in ancient times, the 3 kings. And the 3 kings and the brightest star, Sirius, all point to the place of the sunrise on December 25th. This is why the 3 kings follow the star in the east.
Well, the second thing, well, I don't want to keep saying first and second thing, but I try to order it in some kind of way. But this is also another one of those astronomical occurrences is actually that this Christmas that everyone will be celebrating, or I guess all the people who celebrate Christmas, I definitely won't be celebrating in the way in which others will be celebrating. So we'll talk about that today. But it also rolls on a full moon. And obviously that's the winter solstice. And during that time, the sun is at its lowest point according to how the earth is positioned. And during that time, you actually can take yourself through the good old death, burial, and resurrection process of your own consciousness. This means having the opportunity to actually turn over a brand new leaf. And this is why you find things such as the New Year's resolution becoming a major part of that period of time, because it is still remnants of that. This process is actually supposed to be about not going into this next year or this next circle or cycle or anu into that same old frequency, but actually breaking those old wineskins, as it said, by actually coming up with something new. And so that's the big challenge, is how do you create something new in this matrix? Because oftentimes we feel like, everything's already been done, and, we're in some kind of a consistent program that will always remain the same. And that's just not true.
Okay, so here's the thing. Osiris was known as the god of the underworld in Egyptian myth. And that's most likely because it was associated with the constellation Orion, which is below the ecliptic. So the Earth is over here, so Orion is not visible because it's behind the sun. Then in the fall, the Earth is over here, and Orion starts to become visible in the night sky. And then in December, when the Earth is right here, Orion is highly visible. That's when it's the most visible. They're talking about something other than our sun. I think they're talking about another celestial object, and that's why it's red. Because notice in those stories, in the Egyptian stories, the celestial object that all of these archaeologists claim is the sun. Oh, they worship the sun. I don't think so. First of all, I don't think they worshipped it. I think they were highly intelligent, and I think they knew of this celestial object. I think the reason that they painted this object red is because that's exactly what color it is. They're not referring to our sun. They're referring to another celestial object.
Okay, so here I am out here in September, and as you can see, there's obviously a really very clear planet that is right north of the sun. And wow, I would love to say it was the moon, but since the moon happens to be right here on the opposite side, there's no way it is. And since we all have been taught in school that Mercury and Venus do not show up, oh, just look at that planet just beaming and shining right now. Somebody tell me what it is. Thank you.
And scientists are now investigating seriously. Oh, okay, no pun intended. Are working with the Binary Research Institute right now. Their view of the solar system is that it's binary. So, and the star that they think most likely is the second sun is the star Sirius. Okay, so if the star Sirius, if they're correct in that our solar system is binary, and that Sirius is the second sun in our solar system, then it's also possible that there's a circumbinary planet. So Zecharia Sitchin talked about this in his 12th planet series. And I don't agree with everything that he said, but I think he probably got some things right. He basically translated these ancient Sumerian texts, which predate the Egyptian texts. And he says that in these texts, they describe this celestial object, planet called Nibiru, that is the planet of the crossing that returns every 30. He says that the time period is 3,600 years. Well, the Hebrew texts give a different time period. The Hebrew texts also reference this celestial object. They say, okay, it passes the Pleiades, which is right here. It passes Arcturus, which is over here, etc., etc. And they call this object the Lord. Okay, I'm kid you not. I mean, this right here, by the way, is a PDF of my book. You can get it for below the ecliptic. Okay, but here's the other thing. Well, according to the Hebrew text, the celestial object returns after 6,000 years in the 7,000th year and stays for 1,000 years. So this is what I've been talking about for a long time. And that is that, okay, maybe both of them are right. Maybe the Sumerian text in saying 3,600 years are kind of correct. And the Hebrews are also correct as well, in that possibly if this object is a circumbinary planet, which we know exists, circumbinary planets do exist. They orbit two stars instead of one. If that's the case here, then we might be looking at a planet that orbits around Sirius like this and then crosses over right here to orbit our sun over thousands and thousands of years. But if that were true, I'm thinking that it would probably spend the majority of its time in this crossing area right here, because the gravitational or magnetic forces of the sun of the two suns would be the weakest right at this in-between point. So this is the area where the celestial object would be traveling the slowest. So the Hebrew texts say, okay, oh, you know this story, the Christ will reign 1,000 years. So if this object is circling our sun in our solar system for 1,000 years, then it may spend the majority of its time here and then orbit this other sun for 1,000 years. Or who knows what exactly. But my point is that it could be a total of 6,000 or 7,000 years. So it's gone. It's in the crossing area, or it's orbiting this other star for 6,000 years. From our perspective here on Earth, it's gone for 6,000 years, and then it returns for 1,000 years. So what's so interesting about all of this is that this myth, about Santa Claus returning to bring the children gifts, and the good children get the gifts and the naughty children get the coal. All of that, it's in the Hebrew text, it's in all of these different cultures. And I want to show you this one other thing, this video. I uploaded this back in 2011, and let me just play it for you. Listen to the lyrics. This is one of the original Santa Claus songs. Santa Claus is coming to town. And just listen to the lyrics in this.
You better watch out. You better not cry. Here's the man who's gonna tell you why.
I just got back from a lovely trip along the Milky Way.
Along the Milky Way.
I stopped off at the North Pole to spend a holiday. I called on dear old Santa Claus to see what I could see. He took me in his workshop and told his plans to me. So you better watch out, better not cry, better not pout, I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming to town. He's making a list and checking it twice, gonna find out who's naughty and nice. Santa Claus is coming to town. He sees you when you're sleeping, knows when you're awake. He knows if you've been bad or good, so be good for goodness sake. Oh, you better watch out, better not cry, better not pout, I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming to town.
With little tin horns and little toy drums, Rudy toot toots and rummy tum tums, Santa Claus is coming to town. And curly haired dolls that cuddle and coo, elephants, boats, and kitty cars too. Santa Claus, Santa Claus, Santa Claus is coming to town.
The kids in girl and boyland will have a jubilee.
Jubilee.
They're gonna build a toyland town all around the Christmas tree. So you better watch out, you better not cry, better not pout, I'm telling you why. The big jolly man in the bright red suit, with his sleigh all full of loot, Santa Claus is coming to town.
Okay, so this is the older version of this song, and notice that it says that Santa he just got back from a trip across the Milky Way, and he's coming to bring a jubilee. The kids of Girl and Boyland will have a jubilee when he returns. So that's a trip. That just, because it ties into this same story that is found in all of these ancient texts. So in the Hebrew text, it says that in Genesis 1, that the Elohim, which is plural, by the way, the Elohim created earth, made earth a paradise. In other words, it could mean that they terraformed the earth, that this could be an advanced civilization, the Elohim. They terraformed the earth, they made it into a paradise, and they set the moon in this particular orbit around the earth. They perfected the atmosphere, they made the air breathable, they grew the plants and the animals and everything on the earth to make it this beautiful paradise, and it was good. And that's what Genesis 1 basically tells us. But then it says this other group came in and destroyed that, and et cetera, et cetera. They call it the deceiver. That is one of the most basic foundations of the Hebrew text. So, but if this ties into what Zecharia Sitchin talked about in the Sumerian texts, which are more ancient than the Hebrew texts, then we could be talking about the Anunnaki. But, you know, I don't know. I don't know much about those Sumerian texts, so I can't say who's who and what's what. But according to the Hebrew text, there were two different groups. So I don't with the Sumerians, it seemed like there were a bunch of different groups. But anyway, the basic gist of the Sumerian stories, according to Zecharia Sitchin, was that this race of beings lived on this planet that would re-enter our solar system every so many thousand years. And according to him, like I said, it was 3,600. But, you know, 3,500 plus 3,500 equals 7,000. And the Hebrew text said that it was 7,000 years, that the blessed day when the return happened, that the Elohim would return in the seventh day, which is the blessed day, which we also were told in codes in the Hebrew text means 7,000 years. So one day is 1,000 years. So the Elohim will return in the 7,000th year and stay for 1,000 years. So, you know, 3,500, you know, 3,500 plus 3,500 here and 3,500 here, that equals a total of 7,000 year orbit if this was a circumbinary planet that they're referring to. Bizarre. I mean, I know, it's just, it's so bizarre, but I just wanted to share that with you guys and just kind of, you know, give a little bit different perspective on all this stuff, because I know everybody's kind of arguing about it. And they do this every year. They're always arguing about, you know, what race Santa is and what race Jesus is and all this stuff. And it's just, you kind of have to laugh because it's these stories come from all of these different cultures, and they've been developing over thousands of years, and the stories have been changing. And the story that we have now and this whole thing surrounding Christmas that we do, it's every single one of those stories is a part of the truth. It's like all of these different cultures have a piece of the puzzle, and in order for us to really know what's going on, we have to take into consideration all of the stories and all of the pieces of the puzzle. Otherwise, we're not going to know what it is. We're not going to get it. You know what I mean? Without all of the pieces of the puzzle, you can't put it together. So anyway, I hope you guys are doing great, and that you have a good Christmas and everything. Again, my book is only $1 right now. So if you want to know more about this stuff, the link is below, and I have a bunch of other videos on it as well. So I will talk to you guys later. Okay, bye.
Anyway, they're infested and infected by this, and they cannot get any relief from it. It actually embodies their own consciousness until they think they are it. And it is a collective frequency. There's no one to actually point at or to say who's involved. This is a frequency that is holding up a wavelength that you should just be standing on, but not something that you should allow to be over the top of you and plotting your course and telling you where you should be going. So this is the lowest point. The lowest point, December 21st, on the solar side of the cosmic body, and this is where they got most people right now. At their lowest point, they come in with this whack story about Acer, who's Santa Claus or Odin, and who's basically Acer is Oz, the Wizard of Oz, in the whole Germanic mind control system that few have let go of since they've been in this since they were kids. Because Grimm, you look at the name, Jacob Grimm and his brother put all this stuff together. If you read Jacob Grimm, right, you just go Google Grimm brothers, right? That's Mother Goose and Grimm, okay? So Grimm, just to give you some brief history, he states that the male figure who appeared in it was a survival of folk beliefs about the Wotan god. Okay, so Grimm, when having to comment about what was going on with this story that he was putting together, that later on became known as Christmas and Santa Claus, he said that this is about a male figure who appeared and has survived from all folk beliefs, and this is about the god Wotan. And somehow Wotan lost his social character, lost his sociable character. This means that no one would want to be around this being. And his near familiar features, meaning he lost actually looking even like a human being. This is why he's always depicted horned. He's the god of the witches. That's Hern, the hunter. And he assumed the aspect of a dark, dreadful power, a specter and a devil. This is exactly what Jacob Grimm says about the Santa Claus tale. Then it goes on and says, the Wild Hunt is a European folk myth involving a ghostly and supernatural group of huntsmen passing in wild pursuit. So these are specters, ghosts, gods, if you may, hunting at a specific time. If this ain't Halloween, it's Christmas. And these hunters may be either elves, so Santa's always got his elves, or fairies, or the dead. Meaning people who are still chained to this consciousness and perspective of how to live, this death culture, okay? So it goes on, seeing the Wild Hunt was thought to presage something catastrophic, such as war or a plague, or at best the death of the one who witnessed it, meaning even celebrating it and conceiving it and seeing it as a part of your consciousness would somehow cause either a war or a plague or even death for the person who did that. Now, I'm reading this right out of Grimm's works and right out of Wikipedia. I'm not making this up. So it goes on and says, people encountering the hunt might also be abducted to the underworld or the fairy kingdom, even their children. You see, so they're telling you they're coming after your kids. In some instances, it was also believed that people's spirits could be pulled away during their sleep to join the cavalcade. So they're showing you this is hyperdimensional, baby. This is not, they're not playing games with you. They're coming to get your kids. And guess what? They got your kids. Most people, they got their kids. You see, so why everyone thinks it's a game and, here comes Santa Claus, ho, 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 I'm calling you slaves, calling all slaves, bring your kids to me because I'm about to sell them illusion. So what is the illusion?
Hi there, I'm Officer Jimmy. Nice to meet you. This is the Truth Fairy.
Hi, how are you?
I'd like to ask you a few questions. The Truth Fairy is going to put a polygraph. Do you know what a polygraph is?
No.
It's a lie detector. Do you know what a lie detector is?
No.
If you lie to us, it will buzz because it senses your stuff, okay? Are you ready to begin?
Yeah.
What is your name?
Fletcher.
That is true, okay. How old are you, Fletcher?
6.
6. Fletcher, have you done anything naughty this year?
I think I forgot.
You forgot? You're saying you don't remember? The machine thinks that you do remember. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Okay, tell me about some of those things.
My brother tackles me and I tackle him back.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying that some of the naughty things you do are only because your brother starts it?
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me about some of the nice things that you've done.
Santa giving me a couple presents that I have. And now I have them, but now my brother broke them a little.
Okay, so that's not really a nice thing that you've done, but it is a bad thing that your brother has done. What's your brother's name?
Sammy.
Sammy. Okay. Tell me some of the bad things he's done.
Tackling me, like I said.
He tackles you, okay.
The good thing that he likes to do is play football.
But You like to play football with him, but you don't like him to tackle you.
It's just that he tackles me too hard.
Oh, he tackles you too hard. How old is your brother?
4.
Oh, he's 4.
He's a little stronger.
Do you ever tackle him too hard?
No, because I'm a gentle boy.
Oh, you're a gentle boy. But Sammy is not a gentle boy.
He's a rough boy.
He's a rough boy? Oh, I'm going to write that down. Sammy's not a gentle boy. He's a rough boy. And I'd like to bring Sammy in to question him about this. Well, if it isn't Sammy, hello, Sammy. How are you?
Good.
Now, your brother was just here, sitting in the chair. Do you know your brother? What is your brother's name?
Fletcher.
Fletcher said that you are a rough boy and that he's a gentle boy. Is that true? That is true. You just like to tackle him sometimes? And what happens when you tackle him? Does he get mad? He does. And what do you say when he gets mad?
Sorry.
You say sorry. Are you really sorry when you say it? Oh, wow. So you're not really sorry when you say it? No, not really. But you just say it, right? Because it makes him stop complaining. Does he complain a lot? Have you done anything nice this year? No, not really. Well, I appreciate your honesty. Tell us about some of the mean things your brother Fletcher did this year.
He bites me a lot of times.
He bites you? I might have to bring him back in here.
Yeah.
Fletcher, do you know why we brought you back in here?
Why?
I was asking you about some of the naughty things that you've done, and you didn't mention biting your brother.
Yeah, because I forgot that.
Oh, you forgot that? Did you forget, or you just didn't mention it to me?
I forgot. I mean, I didn't.
Yeah, he didn't mention it. Do you want to apologize to your brother for biting him?
Sorry. It's okay.
Okay. I think we can move forward from here. Do you guys want to give each other a kiss? Just to show that you're really... I see Fletcher kissing Sammy. I don't see Sammy kissing Fletcher, though. Yeah, go ahead and... Yeah, no, yeah. Just, yes, maybe Truth Fairy, you could help them.
All right, give him a kiss.
Yeah, there you... Oh, but that's on the shoulder, though. I was thinking right on the face. Yeah. That wasn't really a kiss. That was like kind of a peck on the cheek. Give each other a kiss.
Here, I'll hold it for you, Fletcher.
Yeah, ding. Ah, that's very nice. You know what? Santa's really gonna like that. Merry Christmas, guys. I think you were very honest with me for the most part, and I'm gonna tell Santa that you're on the nice list.
Okay.
Did you guys want to kiss each other again? Oh. Sammy, did you like that? He's a rough boy.
So let's go on. So the Brothers Grimm, this is their story. So they protested the King of Hanover, okay? Because they had some other beefs going on. And then they were banished from the Kingdom of Hanover. So they lived as actually banished for a long time until they were invited by the King of Prussia to move into Berlin, in which they could become members of the Academy of Sciences. So if you've joined the university, you'll remember that in Deprogramming 101, we talked about the Prussian society actually being the most instrumental society to creating what we call the modern curriculum and the educational system. That the actual education system in the United States is Prussian. There was no such thing as a master's degree or a doctor's degree before the Prussian system was moved in as a curriculum by Horace Mann, okay? And the backdrop of this is during the Persian War, which they lost. Once the war was over, the king came in, Parliament, and everyone else, and said, well, why did we lose the war? And he said, well, what's happening is our citizens are too independent. Our soldiers, when we commanded them to go and die, they didn't go. So we need to formulate another system that actually starts when they're children to allow them to be obedient to the king, so that way when we send them to die, that they go and die. And that's how the modern educational system was started. Do your own research, check it out. It's all Prussian. So this means also that that's kind of known knowledge, that the Prussian system developed our modern educational system. But what is unknown is that Brothers Grimm were back there creating the largest dictionary to date with turning the language dark. It actually says this in Wikipedia, that they were fascinated with how English could be bent into a dark aspect. And then they began to create these tales, hence the tales of Mother Goose and Grimm, which are like the fathers and mothers of all the rest of the tales that have come out in modern day. Okay, so we're coming into the next break in the last quarter. Probably won't even get a chance much for questions because there's still a chunk of the message. But again, this is what it is. This is the real truth. Whether a person can handle it or not, my duty, responsibility is just to bring it. So we're going to go on this break and come forward, and we're going to get into this last part because, you know, this is how it is. You have to know, because as we talked about, knowing is half the battle, and it's only half because you still got to make the decision. You got to make the choice. Now, we all know that the gift, let me show you how deep this is. The gift comes from the parent, but right away, there's a role replaceal. Instead of the child believing that the power of life came from their parents, the power is switched to coming from Santa. And that's as simple as it is, because once that switch is made, now you've deceived. You've taken part in the deception. See,
Jaden told us by text, good morning, and he gave us till 7:17 a.m. because he woke up at 6:58 a.m. So he gave us 19 minutes. So we're going to go down, and I'm going to film him. Stay right there so I can walk to the bottom. Back there.
Remember, is that the one you wanted when you saw at Walmart?
That is. That is. Who's it for? Read the tag. Right on the front.
To him and Fitzroy.
Nuh-uh.
From Santa.
Nuh-uh. Really?
Uh-huh.
Yay.
But most people know this to some degree or another, but it won't change what they go and do, because that's what mind control is. Mind control is the control of the mind. Duh. It means that it allows you to think certain things, but not make any actions. That's mind control. And anyone who speaks against this is called the Scrooge. So there is a lock on this, meaning that in the consciousness, there's a lock on anyone trying to actually let someone out of this path. A person has to actually let themselves out. On the side where I'm at, there's no keyhole. I only can speak to the person about this, but they have to put the key in and let themselves out of this path of this deception that they've been entwined in most of the time since they were kids. And this is why it becomes so difficult, because it's run several courses. So you actually have to go so deep into your own consciousness to uproot it. It often becomes too deep. You see, like the person, I don't know, man, this is just way far off, man. Like, just Santa's now the Satan? Like, maybe that's just a screw up with the words. Like, and he's red. I know he's red, but that doesn't mean that he's just the devil. Like, I know he comes down the chimney, but to say that that's the root chakra at the bottom and that's hell, I mean, I don't, but it's all there. In fact, it's more of that there than the lies of what they say, you know, the gifts and all this kind of stuff. But think about it. You know, this is just something to let you know what's going on. So let's switch to note here, because switch to frequency, because this is not the way we want to end or begin anything. That's why I didn't end or begin the message with, oh, claws. But just remember, claws is digging its claws into most of our seeds until we become aware of this kind of thing. And I'll just be one of those people that stand in history as a Scrooge to the king, because I already understand and understand and overstand the game. Okay? And that's why I'm out of the game. I don't play games with my own soul. You see? So that's what this is about. Do you want to play games with your soul? Are you soulless now? You're going to get sold onto this whole thing about this story that's fake? Or are you going to go back to your culture or forward to your culture and to start picking yourself up so you could be innovative, new, and create another path for yourself? Because it's your responsibility. And if you allow someone to do it for you, i.e. the king and the rest of the parliament and the minions and elves and slaves that are all tied into it, then so be it. But let it be known that that's your decision. And so when whatever befalls you, or anyone else that's involved in this kind of structure, if you heard the message today, that's why they say it's worst for a person who's actually learned all of this and then still making the same mistakes rather than someone who didn't know it at all, because at least they're free of actually the torment in their own consciousness that they could actually have chose to self-substantiate themselves. Now, I still said, though, it is a walk uphill. So don't imagine, or it's a run uphill and up Mount Meru. Don't imagine that this is going to be easy for you to just go and either approach others and even approach your own consciousness and get ready to start weaning it out. But you have to be ready for that battle. That's why it's a soul war. They're not playing with you. Why we, namaste, love and light, there's no enemies. Okay, keep believing that, even though you watch as people perish. This is a real thing. It's going on. It's affecting our children. It's affecting our consciousness. So at no point can we actually think that this is a game as they would want us to believe that it is. So,
no hate, no hype, no fear.
You better watch out. You better not cry. Here's the man who's gonna tell you why.
I just got back from a lovely trip along the Milky Way. I stopped off at the North Pole to spend a holiday. I called on dear old Santa Claus to see what I could see. He took me in his workshop and told his plans to me. So you better watch out, better not cry, better not pout, I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming to town. He's making a list and checking it twice, gonna find out who's naughty and nice. Santa Claus is coming to town. He sees you when you're sleeping, knows when you're awake. He knows if you've been bad or good, so be good for goodness sake. Oh, you better watch out, better not cry, better not pout, I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming to town.
With little tin horns and little toy drums, Rudy toot toots and rummy tum tums, Santa Claus is coming to town. And curly haired dolls that cuddle and coo, elephants, boats, and kitty cars too. Santa Claus, Santa Claus, Santa Claus is coming to town.
The kids in girl and boyland will have a jubilee. They're gonna build a toyland town all around the Christmas tree. So you better watch out, you better not cry, better not pout, I'm telling you why. The big jolly man in the bright red suit, with his sleigh all full of loot, Santa Claus is coming to town.